Three men vanish from a locked lighthouse in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. When investigators finally broke inside, they found a scene that defied logic. A meal of meat and potatoes was still hot on the table. A chair was overturned as if someone had bolted in terror. But the strangest clue wasn't what was in the kitchen, it was what was written in the logbook. The final entries described a storm so violent that these three hardened veterans were crying and praying for their lives. But here is the problem. Weather stations just 20 miles away recorded a calm, sunny day. There was no storm. So what were they afraid of, and where did they go? It was Boxing Day, December 26, 1900. The steamer ship Hesperus cut through the choppy gray waters of the Atlantic, approaching the remote Flannan Isles. Captain James Harvey was anxious. He sounded the ship's steam whistle, a piercing shriek meant to announce their arrival to the lighthouse keepers. Usually this sound triggered a flurry of activity. A flag would run up the pole. Provision boxes would be hauled to the landing. Three men would stand on the jetty, waving, eager for fresh food, mail from home, and human contact after weeks of isolation. But as the whistle's echo died against the jagged cliffs, there was only silence. Captain Harvey grabbed his telescope. He scanned the island. The flagpole was bare. No smoke rose from the chimney. The heavy iron gates to the compound were shut tight. And most unsettling of all, the massive birds, thousands of seabirds that usually swarmed the cliffs, were quiet, as if the island itself was holding its breath. Harvey lowered the glass, his face pale. He turned to the relief keeper, Joseph Moore, who was standing beside him, staring at the rock that had been his home. "God help them," Moore whispered. "They're gone." To understand why this silence was so terrifying, you have to understand where we are. The Flannan Isles are not a vacation spot. They are a cluster of 7 jagged rocks jutting out of the violent North Atlantic, about 20 miles off the coast of Scotland's Outer Hebrides. Locals call them the Seven Hunters. For centuries, these islands were considered cursed. Shepherds would bring sheep here to graze in the summer, but they refused to spend the night. They believed the islands were the domain of spirits, little people, and phantoms. If you had to step foot on the rock, you performed rituals. You turned your socks inside out. You avoided saying certain words like church or knife. You tread lightly so as not to wake the darkness. But in 1899, the modern world decided to ignore the superstitions. The Northern Lighthouse Board built a state-of-the-art lighthouse on the largest island, Eilean. It was an engineering marvel, sitting 330 feet above the crashing waves. It was designed to be indestructible. 3 men were on duty at all times. First, there was James Ducat. He was the principal keeper. 43 years old, a family man with a wife and 4 children. He was the veteran. He had spent decades on the lights. He was steady, reliable, and not the type to panic. Second, there was Thomas Marshall, only 28, but experienced. He was single, quiet, and known for being meticulous. And finally, the occasional keeper, Donald MacArthur. He was the tough guy of the group. a 40-year-old hardened veteran of the heavy seas. He was brought in because the regular keeper was out sick. MacArthur was known for his grit. He wasn't afraid of a storm. These were not imaginative men. They were professionals. They knew the sea, they knew the isolation, and they knew the rules. The most important rule was simple: never leave the light unattended. At least one man had to be in the lighthouse kitchen or the lamp room at all times. Always. So when the Hespers pulled up that cold December afternoon and no one came out to meet them, it wasn't just unusual. It was impossible. The Hespers couldn't dock. The swell was too high. They lowered a small boat, and Joseph Moore, the relief keeper, rowed toward the east landing. Moore later said that the road to the shore was the longest journey of his life. He scrambled up the steep, slippery concrete steps, shouting the names of his friends. James, Tom, Donald. Only the wind answered. He reached the heavy entrance gate. It was closed. He opened it and walked into the compound. The door to the lighthouse tower was unlocked, but shut. Moore stepped inside. Hello? The silence inside the tower was heavy. It smelled of stale air and cold ash. He went into the kitchen. This is where the mystery truly begins. The fire in the grate was dead. The ashes were cold, suggesting it had been out for days. On the table, plates of meat and potatoes were set out, half-eaten. A chair was toppled over, as if someone had jumped up in a hurry. It looked like the Marie Celeste. Life had just stopped. Moore checked the clock on the wall. It had stopped. The hands were frozen. He ran up the winding stairs to the sleeping quarters. The beds were empty but unmade. He climbed higher to the lamp room. The lens was clean. The oil fountains were full. The machinery was in perfect working order. The light was ready to shine, but no one had been there to light it. Moore ran back down, checking the hooks by the door. This is a crucial detail. In the entrance hall, there were pegs for the men's outdoor gear, their heavy oilskins and sea boots. 2 sets of gear were missing, but the third set, Donald MacArthur's oilskins, was still hanging on the peg. This froze Moore's blood. You have to remember the rule: one man stays behind. But if MacArthur was the one who stayed behind, where was he? And why would he leave the lighthouse without his protective gear in the middle of December? To go outside on Eilean Moor in winter without your oilskins wasn't just foolish, it was suicide. The wind cuts like a razor. The spray freezes instantly. Moore ran back to the ship to get help. He told Captain Harvey, "The place is a tomb." Captain Harvey sent 2 more men ashore to help Moore search the island. They combed every inch of the rock. They found nothing. No bodies, no notes, no signs of a struggle inside the tower. But then they opened the logbook. Lighthouses run on strict documentation. Every shift, weather conditions, and observations are written down. The entries for early December were normal: wind direction, fuel consumption, routine maintenance. But starting on December 12th, the tone changed. The entry for December 12th, written by Thomas Marshall, read, "Severe gale. Winds variable. stormbound. Never seen such a storm. This was strange. The Hesperus passing nearby at that time had recorded no storms. The weather was calm. The entry continued. James Ducat, irritable. This was unlike the steady principal keeper. December 13th. Storm continued through night. Wind shifted west by north. Ducat quiet. MacArthur crying. Stop there for a second. Donald MacArthur, the veteran, the brawler, the man who had seen everything the ocean could throw at a ship. Crying because of a storm? This didn't make sense. These men lived for storms. A lighthouse is built for storms. Why would they be terrified? December 14th. Daylight. Gray daylight. Me, Ducat, and MacArthur prayed. 3 hardened Scotsmen praying for their lives in a storm that no one else saw. Then the final entry. December 15th, 9 a.m. Storm ended, sea calm, God is over all, that was it. The last words ever written by the keepers of Flannan Isle. The investigation revealed that the light had been out since the night of the 15th. A ship passing on the night of the 15th reported seeing no light. So whatever happened at afternoon or evening. The search party moved to the west landing. This is the side of the island facing the open Atlantic. What they found there defied logic. The west landing was a concrete jetty built into the rock, sitting 110 feet above the water. At that height, 110 feet up, an iron supply box weighing hundreds of pounds had been ripped from its concrete moorings and twisted like a pretzel. Iron railings along the path, cemented into the stone, were bent and broken. A massive block of stone, weighing over a ton, had been dislodged and moved. The damage looked like a bomb had gone off, but it wasn't a bomb, it was the ocean. But remember the logbook? The final entry said, storm ended, sea calm, so we have a lighthouse with a meal interrupted. A coat left behind. A logbook describing a storm that didn't exist, filled with fear and madness, and damage at the landing that suggests a force of nature so powerful it could bend iron 100 feet above the sea. The bodies were never found. Over the last 120 years, people have tried to make sense of the vanishing. How do 3 men disappear from a locked island? Let's look at the theories. Theory number 1, the murder-suicide. This was the first whisper among the locals. The isolation had gotten to them. Cabin fever is real. The theory goes that MacArthur, the volatile one, snapped. Perhaps the crying in the logbook wasn't fear, but a mental breakdown. Did he attack the others? Did Ducat and Marshall flee the lighthouse to escape a rampaging MacArthur? Imagine the scene. A fight in the kitchen. The chair knocked over. The men running out into the dark. MacArthur chases them to the cliffs, pushes them over, and then, realizing what he's done, throws himself into the sea. Why it doesn't fit? It's dramatic, but the evidence doesn't support it. The kitchen was tidy, aside from the chair. If there had been a life or death struggle, there would have been blood, broken glass, chaos. And remember the oilskins. 2 were missing. If they ran out in a panic to escape a killer, would they have stopped to put on their coats and boots? Unlikely. Plus, these men were friends. They had worked together before. The madness angle feels like a convenient way to explain the unexplainable. Theory number 2, the paranormal. This is a favorite of the campfire storytellers, the Phantom of the Seven Hunters. The locals warned them. They said the island hated human intrusion. Some say a sea monster, a kraken, or a giant squid slithered up the cliffs and snatched them. Others point to the phantom. The folklore speaks of spirits that lure men to the edge. Did the men see something in the water? Did they hear voices calling them? The logbook entries about praying and crying are often used here. Why would they pray if it was just wind? Unless they saw something in the storm that wasn't natural. And the birds. Why were the birds silent when the Hesperus arrived? Animals know when something is wrong. Why it doesn't fit. As much as we love a ghost story, we have to look at the physical evidence. A sea monster doesn't explain the bent iron railings. Ghosts don't usually rip up concrete. And while the logbook is creepy, later analysis suggests this storm might have been a localized low-pressure system that just didn't hit the land stations. Theory number 3, the rogue wave, the likely truth. This is the theory that chills me the most because it is entirely real. The Atlantic Ocean is a beast, and the geography of the Flannan Isles is unique. The underwater cliffs force deep ocean swells upward, creating sudden, massive walls of water. Here's what investigators think happened. It's December 15th. The calm recorded in the logbook was deceptive. The wind had dropped, but the swell, the power of the ocean underneath, was still raging. Ducat and Marshall go down to the west landing. Perhaps they see that the storm damage has loosened the crate where they keep their ropes and gear. They go down to secure it before the next storm hits. They are wearing their oilskins. They are 110 feet above the sea. They feel safe. But then MacArthur, up in the tower, sees it coming, a set of rogue waves. Not just big waves, but monster waves. Walls of water 80, maybe 100 feet high, generated by the pressure deep below. MacArthur sees his friends are in the danger zone. He sees the water rising. He panics. He jumps up from his lunch. He knocks over the chair. He doesn't take the time to grab his coat. He rushes out the door, running down the steep stairs, shouting into the wind to warn them. He reaches the landing just as the first wave hits. It crashes over the 110-foot cliff. The power of thousands of tons of water smashes into the concrete. It rips the iron railings like paper. It grabs the stone block, and it grabs the 3 men. In a split second, they are gone, swept into the boiling, freezing white foam. The water recedes, dragging them down into the deep, dark currents of the Atlantic. MacArthur, without his heavy coat, might have struggled for a moment. Ducat and Marshall, weighed down by their boots and oilskins, would have sunk like stones. When the water clears, the landing is empty. The birds are the only witnesses. This theory explains the chair. It explains the missing gear. It explains the damage to the landing. but it doesn't explain the logbook. If they died on the 15th, why did they write about a severe gale on the 12th, 13th, and 14th that no one else saw? Why were they crying? Why were they praying? Some historians now believe the logbook entries might be forgeries or misinterpretations added later to sensationalize the story, but others swear they are real. If they are real, then those men were experiencing something terrifying for days before they died, something that made seasoned sailors weep. Perhaps the storm was in their minds, or perhaps the ocean was playing with them. When the Hesperus left the island, leaving a new crew behind, those fresh keepers reported hearing strange things, the wind whistling names, the sound of footsteps on the iron grate when no one was there. To this day, the Flannan Isles Lighthouse still stands. It's automated now. No humans live there anymore. But if you sail past the 700s on a quiet night and you look up at that blinking light, remember James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur. Remember the table set for a dinner they never finished. And remember that sometimes the scariest thing isn't a ghost or a monster. It's the vast, indifferent ocean waiting for you to make one small mistake. And once you step off the edge, there is no coming back. But this is just one story from the shadows. If you want to dive deeper into the unexplained, I have another file waiting for you on the screen right now. It digs into a mystery that is even more disturbing than the one you just heard. Click it now and let's continue the investigation. Until then, check your locks and keep the lights on.